how many you might have. This quote into places like we're standing right here. There's also a fridge right here next to me. Rental property are going to be different. Whenever we're looking at doing.
So let's talk a little bit about these elevation certificates. You know, you heard me mention before, they're no longer required. That doesn't mean they don't help. One of the big things with elevation certificates is, does anybody remember how many diagram numbers used to be on an elevation certificate? It was around, I think, 10 or 11. They could be really confusing. It's like you had 2 different types of slab. You had 4 different types of crawl space. Well, they've tried to simplify this really into these 6 areas now, where you don't necessarily have that below grade crawl space and above grade. You just have a crawl space. You've got your elevated with enclosure. Now, elevated with enclosure has been kind of misleading for a few years, especially if you work with a lot of real estate agents. They'll send you a lead, hey, this house has a basement. But FEMA doesn't consider it a basement. FEMA really considers it an elevated with enclosure because it's a walkout basement. So that's kind of one of the things that they've tried to eliminate that confusion as well there too, is having that elevated with enclosure, elevated with no enclosure, especially if you're on the coast, and piers and pilings. And so these big things, let's just talk about the crawl space. If you've got the vents in there, not even if you don't have the vents, as long as there's no living space, so the crawl space now, the next floor up is going to be considered your lowest grade floor. That means that's the level FEMA's using in their data to determine it. Now with these elevation certificate diagrams though, so there's only really 6 diagrams now, so they're really trying to simplify it. Still a little confusing, but it's getting a lot better than it was. So in regards to diagram numbers on elevation certificates, those are some of the changes you're going to see. You're probably going to start seeing those soon with surveyors, because surveyors are getting caught up on these new regulations, but we still have not seen them come in on the elevation certificates with the new diagrams yet.